welcome to a special Brett Trials episode of
Brutal Battle.
You may be asking yourself, what are Brett Trials? Now, this is a idea for a podcast episode I've had for a long time, like years, and that is having different strains of brettanomyces beers on one episode to kind of see what we can suss out as the differences between the different strains of brettanomyces. Now, I was potentially able to do that with beers from the brewery some years ago, but they were not super easy to get at that time, and they were all in 750 milliliters, and there were only 4 of them. Now, the opportunity came up because when I'm putting this episode out, I don't know if we've already done our showcase episode on Sapwood Cellars in Maryland or not, but we either have it out already or we will be having it out after this episode. But they did some experimentation with different strains of brettanomyces, 3 of them from White Labs and 3 of them from Omega yeast, and they canned each strain just for like a limited 6-pack ordeal. And they're like, do it real quick. So the base beer is a Belgian single. So it's all the same base beer, and then they had a keg of each, and they just put the Brett strains into each keg. And then they canned from those kegs these beers so that people could try the Brett Trials, which is what they're calling it. So you can go through and see the differences in all these different Bretts. So we'll tell you what they are as far as like their code for whether they're White Labs or Omega yeast, and also what they're named, so that if you want to look into them further, you can look into them further, or if you're a home brewer and you want to use some of these, you can use them. But I've always thought it's been a great idea to kind of dive into the different strains of brettanomyces and see what are the differences, if any. And now is a great opportunity with 6 options. Okay. So thank you, Sapwood.
Yeah, and making dreams come true.
Yeah, exactly. And I do want to say that we are drinking these 3 days after they're canned. So, and they've been kept cold, so they're good. All right, well, let's just go ahead and jump into the first one, and hopefully this is a good time. So the first one is Brett Trials WLP 644. Now, this one is White Labs, which is what the WL is. So WLP 644 is their Saccharomyces bruxellensis Trois, or TROIS. So, yeah, and I think these are all 5.3%, it looks like. Yeah, they should all be.
Yeah.
Yeah, 5.3. Okay, yes. They're all 16-ounce cans. I don't know if I said that already. Okay, here we go. Ooh. Man, that's a lot of carbonation there. All right, I'm going to pour it. I'm not going to go super heavy on the pours because I want us to be able to move at a pretty decent speed on these. I don't want this to be like a crazy long episode. Oh, and if you hear a little bit of writing here or there, maybe some paper rustling, Rebecca's going to be taking notes on kind of what we're smelling and tasting out of these, because it'll just make it easier for us to refer back to them. Not only to do comparisons as we're going through, but also for the ranking at the end, because yes, we will still be doing that. Okay. I'm assuming they're all going to look the same.
Yeah.
The heads might look different, though.
Very clear. Very yellow, very clear.
Like that clear beer. Yeah, very yellow, clear. Looks really pretty. It's got mostly small bubbles on top, but some larger ones kind of peppered in there. All right. Smells nice and funky. It's got a hay note to it, too, right? I do smell that Belgian yeast, though, too. That is coming through. That little bit of a banana-y note, a little bit of that clove. Don't you? It smells clean, though.
Yeah.
And crisp. There's a decent funk. And it smells kind of creamy, which is interesting.
It does.
Yeah.
It smells really good. I'm getting a little bit of a lemon peel.
Yep. I would say that as well. So I was saying also I'm getting that hay and I'm getting that funkiness, which you will pretty much always get from brettanomyces, but I'm also getting a little bit of what some people refer to as horse blanket. It's that kind of like barnyardy, but it's very low level. And actually, as I continue to sniff it, I feel like that kind of banana-y note from the Belgian yeast is starting to show up more in the nose.
What's the difference between horse and horse blanket?
Good question. I don't know.
Why would you just say horse? Why wouldn't you just say horse?
I don't know. That's just been the descriptor, is horse blanket as opposed to horse. It might be because it's just weird to say
horse,
something like smelling a horse as opposed to smelling something that's been on a horse. Like, would you put your nose close enough to a horse to smell them versus a blanket that was on that horse? Okay. It seems safer with the second one. All right, let's taste it. So I should know, we have had the base beer before.
Right, and we liked it.
On its own. And, yeah, quite liked it, as far as the Belgian single.
It's mild.
Mm-hmm.
It's very delicate.
Yeah, it's very delicate. I get a little bit of that aspirin note that you can end up getting with Belgian ales. And also, it's like a lemon peel. There's, like, lemon peel coming through in that, because there is a decent bitterness. And I am getting the lemon there. It does have a funkiness to it, but it's pretty low, don't you think?
I think it's very low.
It's pretty low funkiness. Well, you would know for sure because you're very sensitive.
Yeah.
To that
I drank it down and I thought it was good, so the funkiness is low. For sure. I'm definitely getting the Belgian yeast characteristics, though. Everything that we got in the nose, I feel like I'm getting in the taste.
Yeah, and it does have that hay. It's got that horse blanket. Well, let's just call it horse. We got the horse in there. Yeah, it's very easy, very mild. It really does bring that Belgian yeast to the forefront, in my opinion. A little clove, a little banana to it. But yeah, that funkiness is there. The funkiness is significantly less than I assumed there would be, which is interesting. Okay, so once again, that was the White Labs Saccharomyces bruxellensis Trois. Now, the next one we're going to move to, because we're going to do them in chunks, so we're going to do the next White Labs, which is WLP 648, which is Brettanomyces bruxellensis Trois Vrai. Okay? So moving on to that one. This one has less carbonation than the first one. First one, as you heard, very carbonated when we opened it. It was a very significant pop going on there. Okay. I'm going to assume they're probably all going to look the same, wouldn't you think? Do they? Does this one?
I think so.
Yeah, they look the same. There's a lot more larger head to this one. Larger bubbles in the head. Whereas the first one had a lot more small bubbles. This one mainly has large bubbles to the head, which is interesting. I wouldn't think there'd be that difference.
This one smells more funky.
Oh, yeah. Ooh, and it's almost got like a bit of a tart bite on the nose. Don't you think? It's like a fruity tart bite. Almost wine-like white wine. Like getting a little bit of that kind of, like a Sauvignon Blanc type.
I could see that.
Sharpness in the nose. Ooh, I'm liking the nose of this one more. Definitely. I do get the little bit of that Belgian yeast character coming through, but it's significantly less than the first one. This one's interesting. This one really is smelling very wine-like, don't you think?
Yeah.
That's interesting. And yeah, you're totally right.
It smells good. I like it.
Yeah, you're totally right. Definitely more funky. More of the horse blanket. Still getting that lemon on the nose, a little bit of it. Still getting that hay. Oh, I actually get a slight pineapple, too. When I smell it more. Very slight pineapple. I'm hoping that's in the flavor. And go into it.
I think it's very pineapple-y.
Yeah, there is a pineapple character in there. I would qualify that. Very pineapple-y in comparison to the first one.
Right, which I didn't get any pineapple.
Yeah, me neither. Yeah, the pineapple's there for sure.
It's not as funky as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, it's not as funky. It's got a bit of a cereal note on the finish, don't you think? Kind of like cereal grain. That's interesting. That's definitely different than the first one. And I feel like it really is downplaying that Belgian yeast. don't you think?
Yeah.
I can't perceive it nearly as much as I did in the first one. And it's a little wine-like. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting because it has a decent bitterness to it, but where the bitterness in the first one was starting to taste like very lemon peel bitterness to me, this one, it's like the bitterness stands alone and isn't associated with my palate with the lemon note, even though there is like a slight lemon to it. Maybe that's because of that pineapple presence. I don't know. Interesting. Already
different.
Pretty different. And this is why I was very excited to do this episode, because it's a cool experiment. And we like to do these types of experiments on the podcast here and there. Okay, so as a reminder, that was WLP 648, the Brettanomyces bruxellensis Toivre. Now we're going on to the last of the White Labs, and this is WLP 650, and that is just the straight up Brettanomyces bruxellensis. So here we go. Carbonation sound of the can more on par with the second one. There you go. Here I go. All right. Yeah, they're all... This one looks a little
hazy.
Yeah, this one's not clear. That's interesting. But it's the same kind of yellowish... I do think that the last one maybe looked a slight more tinge orange than the first one. Well, that's interesting. It's a little hazy. Huh. Didn't see that coming. Now, the head to this one is very much like the second one, the WLP 648. As in, it's just like large bubbles basically hanging out. Okay, smell. Less funky.
Less funky. It's a very mild nose.
I think less funky, more fruity. And it's more like I'm getting that pineapple like there was in the second one, but there's also some other fruit peeking through. It's a little mango-y. It's like pineapple mango type. Does that make sense to you? It's a little citrusy.
Yeah, I can see that.
Other than the pineapple. There is the funkiness there, but it's way less than what the last two were, actually. But it's still there. Yeah, this smells more fruity.
It does smell more fruity. I feel like overall, though, it's just a mild nose.
Yeah, it's soft. I will say that. There's a lot to it, but it's a softer nose. I would go soft, definitely. It's I do get the Belgian yeast character, but it's pretty muted, in my opinion. It's much harder to get because it feels like that fruit's blocking a lot of it. I do get a little bit of the hay, but yeah, once again, like all of those type of notes are a lot less because that fruit's more in the forefront. I think it smells really good. I think in my opinion, this is the best smelling one thus far for me personally. It is
not as flavorful.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like this one's more bitter. And I think the perception of the funkiness is higher, don't you think, than the last one. Probably not the first one, but the second one. And the fruitiness, it's there, but it's so faint.
Yeah.
It's like this super faint kind of pineapple-y citrusiness, and there's a little bit of like a lemon to it. Definitely. Do you agree that like the bitterness perception on this is a lot higher than you would think based off the nose and in comparison to the other two?
I would agree with that.
Here's the thing, though. I don't really feel like I'm perceiving the Belgian yeast as much in it. Like, I feel like the funkiness is covering that Belgian yeast a good amount. I
feel it's less Belgian-y than the other two.
Definitely. Yeah. Okay, so that does it for the White Labs ones. Now we're going to move on to the Omega yeast. So whereas the White Labs have like technical names for theirs, the Omega yeast have fun names for theirs.
Oh, okay.
So the first one for the Omega is OYL210, and that is Where Da Funk.
Oh, okay.
So if people want to look up, what goes into Where Da Funk and how they get that, you can do that. I gave you OYL210, so let's get into it. The least carbonation, by the way, based off of just opening the can. That is the least carbonation sound we've had thus far. Okay. Color-wise, we're back to being very clear. I think this is looking... Is it me, or is this looking even more yellow than most of them?
I think it's the lightest colored.
Yeah. It's the palest. Definitely. This one is just like the last two, where the head is a lot of large bubbles to it, and they are sticking around, smell-wise.
Very orangey.
Yeah, good point.
Isn't it very orangey?
Okay, this is interesting. So yes, it's very orangey, but there's also a sweetness on the nose that doesn't exist in any of the first three. Do you agree with that? There's this almost slight sugary sweetness on the nose. It smells good, though. I think it complements that bit of orange that's in there. There is a funkiness, but the funkiness is very downplayed because of that oranginess, because of that sweetness. I wouldn't be able to tell that this is a Belgian. Like, I can't smell the Belgian yeast. I don't get clove. I don't get banana. There's a little bit of that hay. There's a slight aspirin-y note. But it's pretty faint. But a lot of times that kind of aspirin-y note can fold in with the funkiness, in my opinion. It smells good.
Yeah.
I think this is another one that smells really good. Now, the last one was the best nose. I think this one is up there nose-wise. Hopefully, the flavor is closer to the nose than the last one was.
It's good.
Ooh. This is probably the biggest flavor.
Yeah.
Don't you think? There is like a fruity kick. There's definitely a fruity kick to it. I get that. Do you get that orange that you were talking about smelling?
Definitely.
Yeah, I definitely get an orange flavor. I feel like it's mixing with a lemon peel. And so it's finishing with a little bit of a bitterness. But I think the bitterness... Do you feel like the bitterness is the lowest perception-wise?
It's very low.
Yeah. And the funk... The funk is there, but the funk is pretty low perception, too, in the flavor. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
That's good.
They're all good.
Yeah, I mean, they're all good, but, like, this is good in a different way.
Yeah.
You know? Like, it's very different.
It is fun to kind of see the differences, because they all have been different.
Yeah, they've all been different. And I think you're really only going to suss these differences out when you do it this way. Like, it's the same base beer, and you just go through them all at the same time. So you can be like, oh, this is different than this. And yeah. So, okay. I do think that ranking them favorite to least favorite is going to be hard at the end, though.
Yeah, I don't even know.
We might need to, have a few extra tastes of some of them. I already have an idea. Like, start formulating in your mind, like, what I'm doing right now of, like, what's my favorite or favorite two thus far. Because then you can start to kind of, like, set up the cans as we're figuring it out. Okay, so on to the fifth beer and the second of the Omega yeast, and that is OYL211, and that is called Bit O Funk. Are you having fun with these more fun names?
Bit O Funk.
All right, here we go. Not a whole lot on the carbonation. There you go. Okay, a little from me. This one's slightly hazy.
Mm-hmm.
There's a little bit of haze in there, but not as much as... What was the one that was pretty hazy? Was that the third
Yeah, that was the third one.
That was the third one. Yeah, that one was pretty hazy. This one has a little haze, not nearly what the third one had. Still pretty yellow looking with a little oranginess. Still doing that thing like we've been talking about with large bubbles of head sitting there. But I think it's actually more of a head than most of them.
I love this nose.
Ooh. Oh my gosh.
Lots of honey.
There is a lot of honey to it, but there's almost this kind of tart-ish snap in the nose. Do you feel that way? Like it's more lemony. It's not like as much lemon peel as it is like an actual kick of like a citrus lemon tartness.
It kind of makes your mouth pucker.
Yeah, a little bit. Little salivation going when you smell it. I do smell the Belgian yeast though. That is still there for sure. I'm getting a bit of that banana, a little bit of that clove going on. So it's really is still letting that shine. The funk is there.
I'm getting a floral note.
Oh, yeah. I could see that. This, I do think that this might be the one that is letting most of the banana through from that Belgian yeast, in my opinion. You feel that way? Especially as I continue to smell it. Like, that banana just keeps growing. It's interesting.
Yeah. I like that. This is, I think, my favorite nose.
I think this is the most robust and aggressive nose, in my opinion. Yeah. All right. I'm going in to taste it. It smells good. It's a lot softer flavor-wise. You're going to... Okay. I want to see what you say about the flavor. There's something particular with the flavor that's interesting to me.
Yeah, what is that?
To me, it's almost like a little salinity to it. Like there's a dash of salt in there. Do you get that?
No.
It's interesting. It's more drying too. Don't you? I don't know if you feel that or not, but I feel like this is probably the most drying on the finish.
Yeah, I could see that.
There is more honey coming through in the flavor for sure. I think there's more hay note coming through. The banana is there. Not nearly as much as it was in the nose, I think. And there's a bit of a... When you take a larger swig of it, there's a bit of like a kick of lemon peel mixed with a little bit of like the actual lemon fruit. So you do kind of get, like we were saying, we were smelling almost like that lemony snap. I get a little bit of that flavor to it.
And I think I'm getting a bitterness too.
Yeah, definitely. That one's pretty interesting. I think that one is, I think the strongest flavor and
nose-wise
and aroma-wise. Okay. So that's going to lead us to our last one, which is the Omega Yeast OYL 212, which is Bring On Da Funk. So based on that name, that would indicate to me this should be the funkiest of the Omega Yeast, I would think. Ooh, an increase.
Carbonation.
Yeah, increase in the carbonation there. All right. I'm down with it. Let's find out what that leads to, if anything. All right, what's this one looking like? The final one. Slight haze.
Yeah.
But of the three that have a haze to them, it's the least. It's a little darker coloration-wise, I think. It's like a darker yellow than a bunch of them. And this one actually has a larger head to it. And there are some small bubbles mixing in with the large bubbles, even though it's majority large. Ooh, this one smells a little creamy. Does it smell creamy to you? It's like the funkiness is creating a creaminess on the nose. For me, it smells a little creamy. I am getting some of that lemon. What do you get? I get some of that pineapple, too.
Yeah.
A little lemon, a little pineapple.
It smells fruity.
Funky. The funk is Like, the funk's definitely there, but I feel like it's also balanced at the same time by the fruity notes, by that lemon and pineapple. I don't know. I know you're not perceiving it, but to me, it's got this creaminess on the nose. It's weird. But it's good. It works with the nose. I think it's very appealing to me. It's weird that it's there, but it's appealing as being a part of the aroma. This one feels very soft.
It smells a little vinegary.
Okay, I can see where you're getting that. Yeah, I see what you're saying. There's a slight vinegar tinge. Interesting nose. I'm getting a little bit of the Belgian yeast coming through, but it's not super.
Not that much.
Yeah, and I'm having a hard time finding that banana and finding some of the clove. It's there, but it's very low. Your head snapped back when you tried it.
I think this might be the funkiest.
Well, this is Bring On to Funk.
Yeah.
So, ooh, this is the funkiest. I feel like it tastes like it's got a creaminess on the mouthfeel. It really has kind of like a creamy mouthfeel to it.
Yeah.
This is the most funky, I think. Or at least it just seems that way. I like that. I like how funky that is. I feel like it's making the beer taste cleaner, too. It's tasting creamy, but it's also tasting a little more clean. I think it's taking a lot of the Belgian yeast characters out of it. They're there, but barely. That's good. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're all, like we said, they're all good.
Even though this is like the funkiest, it's still very approachable.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, let's start with what we said in the beginning. Like, they're all the same base beer, and it's a good base beer.
Right.
So they're all going to be at least good. And they all are. They're all good. So then it goes down to, like, what's your preference?
I can't rank these.
This is how we're going to do it. I'm going to pour a little bit of the first one in mine, the second one in yours, and then we'll each take a sip of each. See what I mean? And then we'll move on. And we'll just go down and just do like a rapid fire, because I think that'll help us actually do a lineup. Whoops. I was supposed to leave you some of that. That was the first one? Yeah. Ooh, the first one's tasting more banana-y, especially in comparison to that second one. Ooh, that's... Okay. I'm going to mess around with the ranking, with the orders. Is that okay?
Go ahead.
I'm going to leave that. Okay. Bear with us, folks. We're getting there. Okay. So you try that one. That's this one. I like that. That's weird. That's weird, though, too.
I'm not going to be able to rank these. I'm going to let you do the ranking.
Okay, that's fine. Ooh.
They're too similar, and...
I'm going to go... Ooh, actually, I'm going to go like this. Okay. All right. I'm still doing this.
Okay.
I'm literally moving the cans as I go. Okay. All right. So then the last two here. I mean, you can still taste along with me. Because why not? You're here. Right?
Mm-hmm.
You're captive.
I'm captive.
I'm gonna go like this.
I mean, there's not a bad beer on this table.
Was this the one you just drank from?
This is just the one.
Okay. Well, I need that one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, try that. That's interesting. Wait a minute. Ooh. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow. Okay. So I already moved that one. I need to pour these two side to side again. The last two, because those are... This one. Okay. I've got my order here. And this is weird. This is interesting. Oh, no, actually, hold on. Let me try this one. Again. That one's... I'm going to be honest. This, like, when you do a quick run through and sip all of these, the very first one, that White Labs one, pops with the most flavor. And the banana is really popping out of that at the moment. So it's kind of like, what do you like? You know what I mean? That's interesting. Okay. I'm actually liking how aggressive that's getting with that banana. It's the most robust flavor-wise after everything's kind of warmed up a little bit.
My palate is shot. I'm eating a pretzel.
I'm sure it is. I mean, honestly, like, you could ignore the differences in these beers if you want to. Definitely. And I mean, we'll probably do that as we finish all these cans. But, okay, so here's my lineup. So, I'm going to need my phone to decipher which one's which here. So, my number 6 is the WLP 650, which is the White Labs Brettanomyces bruxellensis. Like we said, still good. But that's my number 6. What did we say about that one?
It was less funky, more fruity, had a softer nose, increased funkiness, bitter, faint fruitiness, and lemon.
Okay. So my number 5 is going to be the WLP 648, which is the Brettanomyces bruxellensis Poivrée. What do we say?
That's the one that's more wine-like.
Okay. Got it. Then it is the Omega Yeast OYL 211, which is the Bit of Funk. That's my number 4.
That's the one that had a little floral note. It was had the biggest aroma, and you said there was some salt. Yeah,
that weird kind of like soft salinity to it. That was interesting. So then my number 3 is Omega Yeast OYL 210, which is Where Da Funk.
There's that one has the most orange note.
Okay, the Where Da Funk has the most orange. Okay, that one's good. So then my number 2 is the Omega Yeast OYL 212, which is the Bring On Da Funk.
So that's the one that we thought was the funkiest and creamiest.
Yeah. And then my number 1 is the White Labs WLP 644.
That was the first one we tried.
Yeah, the first one. The Saccharomyces bruxellensis Trois.
And that one kind of just had a little bit of everything. Funky hay, Belgian yeast, lemon peel, horse blanket, low funkiness, delicate.
So what's interesting about that, though, is that I'm liking it the most right now because it's the most aggressive and robust flavor-wise once I just did like a quick run-through of everything. And it's really heavy on the banana.
Right.
And usually I'm not so into that, but for some reason I'm really digging the way it's at play in this particular beer. So that's why I'm picking this one. But then after that, like the next 2 for me, number 2 and number 3, which were those Omega Yeast ones, like they're way more, you know, all the flavors blending in with each other. They're a lot softer. So it's interesting because my number 1's more aggressive, and then my number 2 and 3 are like way more soft and nuanced type style. But this is fun.
Yeah,
this was super fun. If anyone from Sapwood Cellars hears this, thank you for doing this. That's awesome. And if you want to do more types of stuff like this, I'm down with it. Like, that'd be awesome. Do another thing, like, honestly, like a 6-pack of the same base beer with different hops would be a lot of fun, too. I know you could just do that forever, honestly. Just like, I don't know, make it, a smash beer, like single malt and single hop smash. Yeah, you could do it. That'd be awesome. But, do what you want. we've been loving pretty much everything you've been putting out. So, oh yeah. All right. So your thoughts on this?
Yeah, it was fun. It was interesting.
Yeah. That's what I always want to do, especially since we've been doing this podcast for so long. Just keep it fresh. Do new stuff. Do interesting stuff. So definitely interesting. I'm going to enjoy finishing these for sure. So great job, everyone. We should plug all the stuffs. If you want back episodes, you can go all the way back to the beginning, which is a lot. Just go to brutalbattle.com or go to archive.org and search Brutal Battle. I am on Untapped. Search for Carlin Cook or Carlin C, I think, are the main ways to find me. Rebecca's back and active.
I'm active again.
She after we had the episode about Untapped, she's like, I need to get back on there, I guess. So how are you found? Rebecca C, I think.
Rebecca C.
Yeah, just Rebecca C. And we're checking in the same stuff, basically. So also send us any emails if you have feedback or ideas or whatever, brutalbattlepodcast@gmail.com. Do us the big favor of doing ratings and reviews, especially on iTunes. But if you can't do it on iTunes, do it on whatever podcatcher you use to listen to it. And word of mouth is a huge thing. And then our last big thing is
Instagram.
Yeah. Brutal Battle Podcast. Everyone's got the Instagrams.
Yeah, IG.
That's right. Okay, well, everyone, thanks for checking this out. Thank you, Sapwood, for doing this. Thank you, Omega Yeast and White Labs, for having brettanomyces available, because it's awesome. I love the funk. So yeah, thanks. Until next time,
keep it brutal.